Well, welcome to Wisconsin Weather Experts. I'm meteorologist Lisa Michaels, and I have my fantastic coworker, meteorologist Holly Baker, with me today. We have a full plate on staff of what's going to happen weather-wise for the show. And I think something we're going to be talking about more is storms and some hail, which we didn't see here, but Holly, we did in some other areas of the world.
Oh, yeah, definitely in Paris. So check out this. Paris had severe thunderstorms, and they got pelted with hail. You can even hear it, and flash flooding over the weekend. The storm prompted residents and tourists to scramble for cover and even closed several transit train stations and temporary suspensions of flights. So look at that. That is massive. I mean, we saw that maybe a few weeks ago, but we're so lucky here that we're not dealing with that, because hail tears up your car, your house, especially if the wind is blowing with it too.
Yeah, and Holly, you know, we talked about this a couple of months ago too. The severe weather we've had here, massive hail. In fact, some of the largest hail this past month that we've seen in Wisconsin for a while. We know that damage, like you said, tearing up your cars, siding damage, and it's not really easy to have to recover from. So that hail actually started melting and led to some flash flooding. But we're going to have to, again, watch here locally, because as we're continuing to head into severe weather season, we know all too well that hail is just one of the hazards that we could be dealing with here in Wisconsin. So hopefully, you know, not seeing a lot of hail in our forecast, which we're going to get to in a little bit, but we've been dealing with something else a little troublesome this whole week.
Yes, lake breezes. We've been dealing with lake breezes, and honestly, they're not bad when the temperatures warm up enough, but you know, Tom is going to explain more about what a lake breeze is and give more details on that. So we'll turn it over to Tom.
If you live near Lake Michigan, you've often heard the term cooler near the lake, especially in the springtime when lake water temperatures are cooler than the land. Now, before we get into what a lake breeze is, I want to clarify the wind off of the lake versus a lake breeze can really mean two different things, caused by two different mechanisms. Often we'll get easterly, southeasterly, or northeasterly winds, right? And that can happen from air pressure systems. So everybody gets an easterly wind. What I'm specifically talking about with a lake breeze is what happens when we typically have light westerly winds, for example, on a light wind type day when the wind shifts or changes direction off the lake. So let's talk about this here. So we've got the land and we've got the lake. What happens on a spring afternoon is the land heats up, and the land heats much faster than the water does. So this often happens during the springtime when these lake breezes set up, because the lake water is still quite chilly, and it takes a while for that lake water to heat up. It typically takes several months for that lake water to heat up. So that's why the land heats faster than the water does. So as that land heats up on a warm spring day, what happens? Warm air rises, right? Well, we know that. We know cold air sinks, because if you were to walk barefoot in front of your freezer, open the freezer door, that cold air comes sinking to your feet, right? So we know warm air rises and cold air sinks. Well, as that warm air rises, it essentially creates a vacuum, and that allows the cooler lake air to start coming in off of Lake Michigan on a warm spring afternoon, because cold air is heavier and it starts replacing that rising warm air. And again, this occurs on a lighter wind type of a day, and it happens, of course, during the warmest time of the day. That's why we typically see lake breezes happen on a warm spring afternoon, because at the warmest time of day, that warm air is rising, and then you'll see that wind changing direction along the lake shore, and that will send in that cooler lake air, and then you'll start hearing the term cooler near the lake.
It really was a great explanation, because we've been talking about temperatures cooler by the lake last week and even this week. It's something that's not really going to be pushed out of our forecast. We do typically see it again more in the spring and summer. And have you had the chance to go down and actually feel the cool temperatures there?
Oh, yeah. And you can feel when the wind is blowing. I'm like, it's so chilly. Like, you know, but Honestly, it's just, I feel like sometimes it can be bone chilling whenever you're by the lake and the wind is blowing, but then sometimes I feel like the lake breeze will be nice.
Yeah.
Especially when the temperatures warm up and it's probably too hot, you'll be asking for that 70-degree lake breeze.
So we'll be tracking for more of that in the upcoming spring and summer months, typically as the most impactful time, especially warmer inland and cooler by the lake, which is what we'll talk about for our regional forecast for today. Let's dig a little bit deeper into our forecast, because what we've also been talking about is the upper level jet stream is taking the shape of a blocking pattern, also known as an omega block. Now notice this white dashed line here. That is going to represent the jet stream about 30,000 feet up. It is shaped in a Greek letter omega. Because of that, this is what it's going to keep for weather patterns consistently for days across the country. We've been dealing with high pressure, dry conditions, and warming temperatures east of the Rocky Mountains across the Great Plains, and it's sandwiched between two areas of low pressure where there's been consistent patterns for rain and thunderstorms. Those areas that have been under those low pressure systems even today are still dealing with rain and storms, while here locally in the Midwest, we're getting a little closer to that high pressure, dealing with calm and dry weather. As we continue to move into the Great Lakes region, especially near Ohio, that low pressure is strengthened and is just continuing to wrap clouds and rain around it. Thankfully, Milwaukee is far away enough, as well as Green Bay and Door County, that we're not seeing rain here locally, but we're going to consistently be dealing with rain and some flooding conditions heading towards the East Coast. This is going to continue to have impact, especially in areas of the Rockies near the Rockies of Colorado. That's where we're dealing with a lot of snow from where that moisture continues to wrap around, with rain and storms extending from that heading into portions of Oklahoma and Texas, where there's the potential even for severe weather. Precipitation, yes, in this zone has seen 1 to 3.2 inches, 1 to 3 inches also in portions of New England. So really the rain has been excessive, still prompting, notice, flood headlines, even flash flood warnings in Texas and south of Oklahoma City. Also noticing some of those as well in New York as well as Pennsylvania. And again, it has been this way for days. So gloomy conditions persisting there. In addition to that, we're still going to be tracking the threat for heavy rain, especially in the south and even heading up towards New York, New Hampshire, Vermont as we head through today. In fact, there is a quite large risk, a moderate risk for heavy rainfall in some of those areas from Texas heading into Louisiana and even into Mississippi and portions of Alabama. Notice also the severe weather threat's going to be higher there as well, especially around the Houston area. We're going to be talking about the high threat for tornadoes today as that system looks to ramp up heading into the upcoming hours there. Here locally, again, across the Midwest into the Mississippi River Valley, we're seeing plenty of sunshine and calm weather. In fact, we rarely have a cloud out there, just a few spotty ones closer to the lakefront on the backside of this low pressure system. But really statewide, weather looks to be warm and calm through the day today. If you're hoping for some rain, well, we're not going to have it. That omega low is going to help us stay dry through the upcoming days and not looking to have much of a pattern to disrupt us here locally, bringing us showers in the forecast. So we are going to continue to watch that strong storm complex in the south today. We're going to stay dry across the Midwest. Could see a little more cloud cover move in early Wednesday morning, but still expecting that high pressure to keep things rather calm as we head into Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening. Notice where those low pressures are. That's where temperatures are cooler. From Toronto down into Ohio will be in the 60s, even tracking in the 60s to 40s across portions of the Rockies. Then that high pressure, that's where we have the 70s across the Midwest and 80s heading towards the Gulf Coast. Here, locally across the Midwest, 80s from Duluth heading towards Eau Claire, La Crosse. We'll be in the 50s in Milwaukee and 70s from Green Bay to Madison. So that's going to be that lake breeze impact we're talking about, keeping it cooler lakeside today. We'll get a little bit more seasonable in the lower 60s the next couple days, but heading into this upcoming weekend, which is Mother's Day weekend, we look to bounce back into the mid 70s as well. Even extending past that, take a look at our temperature outlook May 13th through 19th. Much of the Midwest and heading east of us looking to have warm temperatures in store for May. We still can definitely see some showers and storms, so don't get that out of your mind. But thankfully, we are transitioning into those warmer months where the weather is going to be a lot nicer. We're going to take a look outside right now where we are seeing plenty of sunshine, of course. Nice from our Estabrook Park Tower camera. Little cloud cover out there. We have a lot more coming up, though, especially as you might want to head outside. The air quality is going to be big, and we're heading into another lesson today for Air Quality Awareness Week. That and more coming up.
All right, welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts, everybody. We still have so much more in store. In fact, we're going to carry on from yesterday. Yesterday, Rob talked about, or with a few meteorologists about isobars. So summer's just around the corner, and we're hoping for perfect weather. So Chief Meteorologist Rob has recently sat down with a few other fellow meteorologists from the Great Lakes region to talk about some of the upcoming things for this season. Among other things, yesterday we heard part one, so today let's catch up on part two.
We've left the first half of spring and winter behind us here. Some of the outlooks as we go ahead here for the remainder of spring and into summer. Some interesting patterns setting up, starting to finally see a little bit more warmth. Let's go over to Detroit. We'll start there with you, Rich. What are you seeing as you look ahead, and we get into that exciting late spring, summer time frame?
It just is greening up nicely in southeast Michigan. I mean, in the last week or so, things are getting nice and green. I'll tell you something that's interesting. That's happening here in the central Great Lakes is the water levels are coming down. So, of course, boating is huge around Chicago, Milwaukee, of course. With Detroit, we have Lake St. Clair, we have the south end of Lake Huron, and we have the west end of Lake Erie. But for the first time in 9 years, we're going to have water levels that are going to be a little below average. We've been used to these higher than average levels.
And the water levels will be interesting. If I look ahead at the Climate Prediction Center, the seasonal outlooks, a lot of heat coming our way, but you're right, not a lot of rain there. And I think you're spot on. That's going to have an impact on that level of tourism. Emily, obviously Chicago with the rivers and the lake, this dry stretch ahead, if it actually comes to fruition, is going to impact you as well.
It will. And the thing that's interesting about the Chicago area, though, is we almost can kind of forget that we have all these beaches around because you're locked in with the city, right? So you kind of have to get out of the city to notice those water levels a lot. But for folks that are in Northwest Indiana, where we have the Indiana Dunes, that's where you really notice it a lot as well. So, of course, with the water levels being higher, we've had a lot less beach. And that's something that I know that everybody has gotten used to, even up in Wisconsin, over in Michigan as well. The beaches, they've just been kind of shrinking, right? So I think for people that have beachfront property, I think we're really looking forward to, those water levels going down a little bit, hopefully to help with some of the erosion as well. But going back to the Climate Prediction Center's outlook with less precipitation, it's one of those things where I think if you don't have farms and you're not relying, on a bunch of farmland around your DMA, then people get excited about that. But, Chicago, people think of it just being the city. It doesn't take very long and you are out in farmland as well. So we still really have to be concerned about that with the lack of precipitation that's going to be possible going into this, the later half of the spring and into the summer, because we just clawed our way out of that drought. So we're not far away from kind of slipping back into it.
Looking ahead, Ian, what do you see?
It is a good year for us so far. I'm really happy with where we are moisture wise. We're about average. We're back up to normal for April. The lake levels look really good. I mean, we have 6 or 7 massive lakes within our DMA, within the city DMA. Massive beaches, boating, frolicking. It is, as long as that's happening, most people are happy. And I think that's what Emily was talking about in winter. Most people don't want the snow. They'll be very happy. And so you've really got this variance of consumers when you live in the markets that we all do. You have your farming friends, you have the city dwellers, you have the people who own the recreational goods like golf courses and amusement parks and all these little tiny things.
As we head into the latter half of spring and look forward to summer, thought I'd get your individual takes on what you would recommend to someone visiting your area, what they would take in as far as, some weather-related attraction. Why don't we start off with Rich over in Detroit? What's my
You got to
not
go
miss?
to like Sleeping Bear Dunes. You got to go to Silver Lake. You got to see the Mackinac Bridge. The Mackinac Island is extraordinary. The locks at Sault Ste. Marie, extraordinary. This is a massive piece of engineering. And of course, the Tigers are doing much better. So, we got baseball is back in southern Michigan. So go Tigers. There you go.
Right. I'm not sure that's the headline they're going to run. We're doing much better, but yes, I appreciate that. All right, Emily, I've got 24 hours. It's summer in Chicago. What do I have to do?
Summer in Chicago, you need to rent a cycle boat, and then you can cycle boat down the Chicago River. It's amazing, amazing views. If that's not your thing and you don't want to work out that hard, because it is a workout, walk along the riverfront, make your way over to the beach. We have Ohio Street Beach, which is my favorite to go to. That's right in the heart of the city. It's at the bend of Lakeshore Drive. So then you're on the beach, and one way you're just looking at beautiful Lake Michigan, but then behind you, you have the backdrop of all of the skyscrapers, but you're divided from the craziness by a road that's going through there. So it's peaceful. It's nice. You've got the best of both worlds. And, in the Great Lakes region, we want to be on a Great Lake, right? We want to be at the beach.
Absolutely. No, great answer for sure. Ian, same question to you. 24 hours in your neck of the woods. What do we do?
And when Rich said, you're like, we made it. That's the way we always feel here in Minnesota. The land of 10,000 lakes. It actually ends up being just over 14,000, but who's counting? I think what you need to do, if you come to Minnesota, you need to find somebody who has a cabin so you can get out to one of those 10,000 lakes. On the weekends here, I will tell you, the city is this vacuum. It pushes everything out on the weekends and pulls everybody back on late Sunday night and Monday. So if you do come to Minneapolis, there is so much to do. Of course, we've got the Minnesota Twins downtown. We've got the Timberwolves who are rocking in the playoffs right now. We've got the Vikings who will probably win the Super Bowl this year in a gorgeous downtown, beautiful metropolitan city that when you get to Minneapolis and Minnesota, it is so undeniably green and gorgeous, and the lakes will draw you. But our big lake in the West Metro is called Lake Minnetonka. It is a massive lake that has so much to do and see, including some of the best restaurants in the metro that you can boat up to. It's a heck of a place. And if you need a place to stay, my basement is always available for any of you. By the way, I've never been to Detroit or Milwaukee. I love Chicago, but Detroit or Milwaukee just never really made it. I've been to Door County though, Rob, and I really like Door County.
That was going to top my list. If you're going to come over to Wisconsin in the summer, you have to get up to Door County, pick yourself some of the best cherries, and buy yourself a cherry pie that you will never, ever forget. Then you got to go to the other end of the state, or almost the other end of the state, get down to Lake Geneva. Beautiful little area there, particularly in the summer. You can check out some of the beaches and see all the folks out there boating, and then end up maybe back in town for a Brewers game, get out to Bradford Beach, get along the shores of Lake Michigan. As Emily pointed out, you got to get a great lake in there somewhere. I want to thank all of you for your time today.
Well, that's great. They're talking about all the things to do, getting out in the warmer months. And of course, one thing that we constantly are analyzing is the air quality. This is day 2 of Air Quality Awareness Week, and we're going to talk more about what is the air quality index and how is it measured. Here's more to explain. During certain months of the year, portions of Wisconsin may be issued under an air quality alert. We typically have these issued in the warmer months when we have things such as wildfire smoke moving in or bad ground level ozone. We'll cover more on those topics later, but the big question is, how do we measure that? And why is it called the air quality alert? Well, this all goes back to the AQI. This is known as the Air Quality Index. The Environmental Protection Agency measures air pollution daily and measures it with an index in order to categorize it. The reason why we categorize the air quality is to determine who is going to be impacted most. So when they're measuring this, it's given a value 0 to 500. Notice the smaller the value, the better the air quality is. The higher the value, the more hazardous the air quality is. But again, it doesn't mean that the air quality is going to impact everyone all at once. When the air still is relatively good, most individuals won't be impacted. But when we slowly start to increase those values where the air is more moderate or unhealthy for sensitive groups, that's where we start to get concerned with people such as young children, older adults, people who have lung issues, heart issues, and asthma. When our air really gets to be very unhealthy to hazardous, that impacts everyone, no matter who you are. So what we look for, again, is monitoring the value or the overall categorized air quality that we have on a given day. If you are someone who is impacted, you may notice things such as coughing, difficulty breathing, heart pain. If you are dealing with any of those symptoms on a day when we have poor air quality, you want to limit your time outside, get indoors as soon as possible, and contact someone if need be if you are not feeling well. Again, this is something that we will monitor every day, but it really is important to make sure that you are checking the air quality levels as well. Your local meteorologist will be covering what the air quality levels are, especially on days where the air quality is poor. Well, now that we've covered a little bit about what it is, we're going to take a look across the state of Wisconsin of counties with the worst air quality. Well, according to the American Lung Association for the year of 2024, counties with the worst air quality in Wisconsin are Kenosha County, Racine County, Ozaukee County, Sheboygan County, Taylor County, Milwaukee County, and Manitowoc County. Interesting fact, Sheboygan County ranks number 25 on the list of worst cities nationwide to be in due to bad ground level ozone pollution. So one of the main reasons why a lot of our counties have that here in southeast Wisconsin, it has to do with the urban lifestyle. We have the city, we have a lot more people living, and things not only such as dust and dirt in the air can contribute to that, but we're talking about exhaust from your car. We'll break more into bad ground level ozone with Tom later on this week, but that really has to contribute to more people driving cars and unfortunately worsening our air. We have a beautiful day to get outside though. Not all day is bad. We're going to continue again to bring you more coming up. We do have a trivia question for you that will bring you right after the break.
All right, welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts. And we did talk about air quality already, especially for our area here in Wisconsin. But here we are. Which state across the United States has the worst air quality? Drum roll, please. Is it California, Illinois, Texas, or New York?
Do you know? Woo!
I think I
Drum
know.
roll. Take a guess.
It is California.
And if you guessed California, then you are correct. Yes, not only do they have a lot of air pollution in terms of wildfires, but certain areas definitely have more due to higher population. A great view right now downtown Milwaukee. And if you have any weather questions, you see that QR code, you can scan at the bottom of the screen and we'll answer them.